everyone, and welcome to the Bold Beginner Podcasts. Recently, I felt like I've been circling the same territory from different angles for like months without really naming the common denominator. I've been talking about identity, about movement, about comfort zones, about feminine strength, about the nervous system regulation, and it really felt like I was addressing them as really separate topics. And they may seem separate on the surface, but somehow they really feel interconnected underneath. And that's because there's a thread running through everything that I speak about. So it really seems like for a long time I've been describing the fabric, and recently I've started to notice the stitching. And so this episode is going to be a bit special because I just would like to mention to you the recalibration that I'm doing with the Bold Beginner. It's nothing too dramatic. It's not a massive rebranding or anything, but it's more so that I've started to identify the underlying mechanism behind everything that I was talking about, all the topics that I was covering. And so I'm just taking a bit of time to explain this slight pivoting in direction or refinement of direction. Is more accurate. And if anything, it's just an extra reminder for you that clarity only comes from movement, that it doesn't come from overthinking, that you start things and then you slowly refine. You slowly understand better because you understand the bigger picture better. And so I really hope that this is going to speak to you and that you're going to feel like you can relate to the direction that it's taking. Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments and also let me know if you have any suggestions. Okay, let's get started. You're listening to The Bold Beginner, a space for multifaceted women where we explore how to feel at ease in your body when you're being seen. If something here speaks to you, consider subscribing or leaving a review or a comment. It genuinely supports the growth of this space. So if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you have heard me talk about being a multi-potentialite. That's a big topic that I've been covering, about expanding your comfort zone, about the fear of judgment, about feminine strength, and many topics revolving around that. And it kind of became clear to me that every single topic was orbiting one central question. And that is, how safe does your nervous system feel when you exist in front of other people without performing or without forcing confidence? And that is really the thread that I would like to focus on from now on. So I was looking into the psychology behind it because I really like to understand the mechanism behind what I'm talking about. I read a bit about the Polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges, who's an American psychologist. And what I took out is that the nervous system is constantly scanning for cues of safety or danger through what he calls neuroception. And to make it simple, the neuroception in question is a subconscious evaluation of the environment. So basically, every time that we do a scanning of our environment, we determine whether we shut down or we engage socially. And every theme that I have explored connects back to this. The fear of judgment, for instance, is clearly a neuroception detecting possible social threat. Struggling to move in public, like I mentioned about dancing many times, and I will talk about it many times, is definitely the body organizing around being perceived, right? And expanding your comfort zone is slowly increasing the range of situation in which your system can remain regulated. So you can remain more and more calm in more and more types of situations, basically. So I could keep going, but you know where I'm going with this, right? That these are different contexts and different topics, but they all have the same underlying mechanism. And so not only this evolution in my content comes from this realization that I just mentioned, this underlying pattern, mechanism, whatever you want to call it, but it also came from a pattern that I couldn't ignore, which is that I began noticing something very consistent across many women that I speak with. And they're all, very intelligent, self-aware women, and they've done a lot of internal work. And usually they don't like insight. They read a lot of books. They do the work. They understand intellectually what's going on. They do not like competence either. For the most part, they're very capable women with very good situations. They don't like ambition. So what is it that they lack? Well, from what I've noticed, what they often lack is neutral ground inside their body when attention lands on them. And just to be clear, the reason why it was so clear to me is because I've definitely been like that for the longest, and I'm still, deep down this person. It's just that I've been doing a lot of work on it. But all these women, they can think clearly in private. They can move freely when they're alone. They can articulate their thoughts very beautifully in writing or even in speaking when they feel in a safe environment, when they talk to friends or family. But as soon as they're being seen, if it's a group setting, if they're in front of a camera, if they are in a new environment with a new group of people, new group of friends or whatever, there's something that shifts. And they start breathing faster, they start kind of stuttering, overthinking too much, being too much in their mind and kind of wanting to control all the outcome and actually losing control of it. And like I said, it has nothing to do with capability. They have the competence, they have the skills, they have the intellect. All of it is there. But it's more so a physiological state. And when you look into it, cognitive science repeatedly demonstrates that working memory and decision-making are influenced by stress level. When cortisol rises under quote-unquote social threat, it can have a huge impact on your performance. And so from the outside, it can look like inconsistency, right? Like you can be very capable in certain contexts, but you become completely clueless or powerless in other contexts, but it's actually physiological. And if I go even further, there's even some sort of existential layer to it, right? It's not only physiological, it's also philosophical. And you know that I really like to talk about these two layers into everything. But if you want to really exist, to have a neutral ground when you're being seen, that means not being bracing, not tightening up your body, not any of that. It requires tolerating uncertainty. You cannot fully control how you will be interpreted, how you will be perceived by others. You cannot guarantee belonging. You cannot guarantee that everyone's going to like you. You cannot guarantee that everyone's going to integrate you in their circle, all these sort of things. And you cannot ensure approval. And if you're familiar with Kierkegaard, the existential philosopher, he wrote about that. He explained that our discomfort usually arises when possibility expands beyond control. Because when you start being visible, you don't have full control anymore. Like I said, you can't control how people are going to perceive you, how they're going to judge you. All of that is out of your control. So this visibility, it carries possibility, and that carries itself uncertainty. And when you are an overthinking woman that wants things to be under control, this uncertainty will activate some prediction systems in the brain because we prefer stability. Not necessarily in a conscious way, but in a very unconscious way. We want to be in control. That goes with stability. And so that's why it's become pretty clear to me that the thread under all the topics that I cover is not only self-expression, or it's not self-expression for its own sake. What I want to talk about is our capacity to remain on this neutral ground, to remain kind of embodied, even when uncertainty arises, even when we're being seen. And so I hope that I'm being clear here, but basically the content that I'm going to get into is going to be way more about the connection between the mind and the body. It's going to be way more into the embodiment, into the presence in our body, and how to be on this neutral ground in our body. And maybe I will readjust in the future. Maybe I will realize that there's something else that I can't see yet, something that will make me pivot or go even deeper in what I want to talk about. But so far, this is really what I want to focus on. And initially, I thought that the common denominator was confidence or productivity or these type of things, motivation, all these things. And actually what it was is really, can our body remain organized, responsive, present, while other people are aware of you? And that's something I've really been working on without really naming it. I wasn't really that clear in what the problem was and what the patterns were for a long time. And I've started to really put words on it and name all these things more recently. But I've been working on it for years, the past years, really for the past 10 years or so. And so I really have a deep understanding of what it is, and I'm still going through this journey. And it makes me happy because when I look back at everything I've been publishing so far, I have been talking about, all these things that are a continuity, about movement, identity, expansion, fear of judgment, all these things. And even though, like I said, it would be completely okay if I decided to change entirely what the Bold Beginner is about, or to even change the ball beginner entirely, change the name, everything. All of this is fine. I'm really allowed to outgrow things that I've been talking about and to change direction, and that's okay. And we're all allowed to do that. But I guess to see that what I'm doing now is only kind of going deeper in that continuity of all these topics I've been covering is giving me some reassurance that I'm in the right direction for what is meaningful to me. And I'm just going deeper into what means the most to me at the moment. And that's a very comforting thought, to think that I guess you're one step closer to what is really aligned with you in this moment of your life. And of course, it's great because if you have coherence and kind of a common thread under everything that you do, then the work becomes clearer. What your purpose becomes clearer, your goals become clearer. So it's also bringing me, it's also clearing kind of the fogginess around me as I move forward in this creator journey. So I really hope that it will speak to you. I really hope that this kind of refining of my topics is going to be relatable to you. Please, again, feel free to share in the comments if you have suggestions, if there are some things related to the topics that I want to talk about that are very important to you that you would like me to cover. I am definitely taking on board everything that you could talk about, suggest, and let's see where all of this goes.